Good morning, YouTube, BookTube. This is Johnny, and I'm going to be spontaneous. That's one thing I often struggle with about making videos, is do you rehearse? Do you write out what you're going to say? Are you going to set the environment up? To me, as I've said many times over the last couple of years, I start making videos in YouTube, BookTube, that it goes, I just want to be real. I don't want to edit. I don't want to come off like this is a TV show where I'm out to entertain you, or I'm out to dazzle you with my deep insights into literature, because it's one thing. I watched this video with this guy who's been making videos for a long time. He's a Christian, and he looks at his videos as some kind of Christian ministry. And I watch him off and on. He's very, I think he's sincere, but I don't think he recognizes his limitations in the world. I mean, it's like many years ago, many years ago, when I was in my early 20s, when I lived out in California. I was around 21, and I remember one day I was hitchhiking to my girlfriend's house, and I came to this conclusion that I have limitations. I have educational limitations. I have social class limitations. I have all kinds of limitations, and you have to, sometimes now I'm not saying that you can't improve yourself, that you can't, but there's certain things that are inescapable. You're never gonna, you're always gonna have certain walls that cannot be penetrated. And this guy, to me, lives in a dream world. This Christian guy who makes these videos, he has all these, he just doesn't recognize his limitations. And I think he's going to be confronted with frustration and maybe despair and anger, and because he refuses to recognize his limitations. And so you have to discover what you're good at, or you have to accept that you're not going to go certain places in life. Like when I was working, I used to work with guys who had all these daydreams, about getting a better job, or making more money, or doing this or doing that. And I would talk to them and find out that they had dropped out of high school, that they were illiterate, they couldn't read, but they had all these dreams about, these big jobs and making lots of money. And I said, well, you haven't even finished high school. You don't have any job skills. All you can do is manual labor. And I said, why don't you just accept this is what life is, and this is what you have, and just, why do you live in this dream world? There is no greener grass over the hills. This is it. And I realized that a long time ago. Now, I'm not saying I've had my dreams. Like I've said many times over the years, I wanted to be a gospel minister. And when I first started out, when I left California to go to Reformed Bible College in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I was pretty idealistic. I have to admit, I didn't really know the real world. I had kind of lived a very sheltered life. I had lived within my own little fantasy world. And then I went to Bible college. I got married and started having kids. And then I went to seminary in Jackson, Mississippi. We went to Jackson, Mississippi. And then I began to see that I had limitations. I mean, I wasn't like the guys around me. They were from the South, they were young, they had young families, they were Southern, they were established within the Presbyterian Church in America. But I still held on to the idea, well, I could get a church and be a minister because I love the Bible, I love Reformed theology. At that time I was into Reformed theology, and I really had sincere love for spiritual things. So I thought to myself, well, I'll get my Master Divinity degree, and I'll do my internship, and then people will just recognize, Christians will recognize that in spite of my limitations, that they'll see that I'm a Christian, that I love the Word of God, that I'm Orthodox, and that they'll call me and they'll ordain me. Well, to make a long story short, it never happened. I began to realize that that's not how the world is, the Christian world. And it was very devastating, because I came to realize this when I was 40 years old, and that there was no place for me to be a minister. There was no church. There was nothing. And so what do? Well, you come to a place to accept it. You're just going to have to accept it. Now, it took me years to accept it, I have to confess. I worked at a job. We moved up here after our internship in Houston, Texas, and going on here 28, 29 years. My wife grew up here in Holland, Michigan. And now I'm going to be 67 years old next Wednesday, August the 14th. So now I can just live a life of being a bookworm, and that's what I'm doing. This morning, I'm reading Biblical Theology of the New Testament by Peter Stuhmacher. I'm really enjoying this. I'm on chapter 21, The Gospel, Justification, and Faith, page 346. So I've been reading that pretty steadily. Writing in my diary. This is page 698. Now, I've been writing in my paper diary, like I said, since 1968. And as I've said, when I left California in 1977, I burned my diaries, I burned everything, I burned the bridges, I burned down my old life, and I drove across the country in an old Mercury Comet, and I went to Reformed Bible College, and I met Carol and got married, and we've been married now going on 40 years and have 3 kids who are married, and we have 6 grandchildren. And we've been living, like I said, here in Holland. And then so every year I started page 1, January 2019, I started on page 1. And now I'm on page 699 in my 2019 paper diary. So I've written down my American nightmare. But I have to admit that we have been richly blessed. I'm very thankful. But one thing, I go back about being a gospel minister, I realize now, as the years have rolled along, that I would never have survived in a gospel ministry. I'm too weird, I'm too nonconformist, I'm too radical, I'm too spaced out, I'm too free thinking, I'm bookish, I always question everything, I'm skeptical, I'm not easily persuaded, I don't believe what I'm told or what I've read. I just go by the Bible, by the Word of God. And as I said, when I became a Christian in 1970 in the Bay Area, Richmond, California, I was an existentialist. All that I believed is what I lived for the moment. And whatever that moment was, I filled up with women or dreams or books or writing or art or music. And then I became a Christian, and the first years of my Christian life were very, very difficult because I was young and I was somewhat it took a long time for me to grow up. I was a baby Christian and I had a lot of growing up to do. So here I am this morning, and I did get a book in the mail. I ordered some books. So I've been reading this the last couple of days. This is by Elias Canetti Translated. Now, I came across this book because it was mentioned. It was mentioned in here. As I said, I started reading this too. Kasebier Takes Berlin by Gabriele Tergit. This is translated out of German by Sophie Duvernoy. And it mentions this book in the back. It mentions this book in a little blurb in the back here. And I don't know why that sticker's on there. It says, portraying a society declining into fascism, the novel resounds with a hollow laughter and crisp throughout, which blends obscurism and potency, matched with the comic inventions. No, wait a minute here. This is the wrong one. A Star is Born, Weimar style, in this German novel originally published in 1931. This was originally published in 1931. Tergit's novel deserves a place alongside Durbin's Berlin and Alexanderplatz, and this is what this is. The New York Reviews published this one. So this blurb is saying is that this book belongs alongside this one. It also says it also should belong next to Canatel's Auto de Free. So they're saying that these books should all be set together. So I'm reading them. Oh, I've read this one. I read this one. When I ordered this in the mail, I realized I had an older copy of it that I had read, which I had forgotten. So these all three kind of go together. So I've been looking at these and reading them the last couple of days. I don't know if that makes sense when I'm trying to communicate, but anyway, I also been reading Tomato Red by Daniel Woodrell. So that's what I've been reading the last couple of days. I got books coming in the mail. The New York book classics have had summer sales, and I ordered 2 books. I got a book by N.T. Wright, The Resurrection of Christ, coming. And I have thrift store books I have not shown. I got another book in the mail the other day when I got this one. I've read in here 83 pages. So these are on my to be read pile. I thought about doing a video about to be read pile. It's like this. I was watching videos this morning on BookTube and people just mentioned all the books they've read in July. I read a lot, but like I've said, I don't really finish books. I just love the activity of reading. I love collecting books. I like looking at books, smelling books, holding books, being surrounded by books, drowning in books, swimming in words and language. I'm not really into finishing books. Now, once in a while I do finish a novel, but I rarely ever finish. Like, I doubt if I'll finish reading this cover to cover. This is almost 925 pages. What I do is I read until I feel like reading something else. Now, sometimes a novel will really grab me and I'll finish it. Now, I'm sure I'll finish Tomato Red by Daniel Woodrell. Now, this is, look at, it's very big print. I could sit down, even right now this morning. It's 10:09 here on August the 7th, 2019. It is a Wednesday morning. I could finish this if I read it till noontime. But as I've said, I read several books in one day. I'm writing in my diary. I'm on the internet. I watch the birds. I eat, I sleep, I doze, I dream. I wander around in the wasteland. I might even visit thrift stores this morning. Look for used books. This coming Friday, we're going to a used book sale. Friday, I also go, after the book sale, I go to the library used bookstore, the Book Nook, and volunteer. So, who knows? I listen to music. I stare off into space. I watch videos on BookTube. You know, one thing else I notice about BookTube, all the girls, all the women. I go to some people's and I look at who they subscribe to. There's thousands of girls. There's no really older men. I mean, I'm going to be 67, right? I'm going to be, before you know it, I'll be really old. And there is no old timers. There are just all these women, all these girls. And there's no Christian who holds to traditional family values or who holds to, I don't know. I think, like I've said, I realize there's a generation gap. That's it. I'm of another time period. I'm an old guy. But anyway, I just thought I'd stop by. It's a Wednesday morning. I thought I'd just be spontaneous, tell you what I'm reading, where I'm at in my diary, and hope you're all doing well. Thank you for the new subscribers in the comments. And until next time, bye.